One of the things we often talk about with our programs that actually a lot of people overlook is the importance of including both open chain and closed chain upper extremity exercises. So as an example, a bench press would be an open chain exercise because the proximal segment is fixed and the distal segment is actually moving, whereas a push-up would be, distal segment is fixed and the proximal segment is actually moving. So we've talked, in the past about, it's important to have both in your training programs, and a lot of people tend to maybe gravitate exclusively towards the open chain variations, but no one really discusses why we want to include those push-ups and what is it that they're actually doing. And the important thing to appreciate is that if we actually understand why we're including those, we can realize that it isn't just an open and closed chain debate, it's more about what we're doing with our shoulder blades. So if you think about folks that spend all their time bench pressing, the cue we give them over and over is down and back, down and back. And the problem is a lot of these people, whether they're folks that spend all day at a desk jobs, they spend their arms, at their side. Okay? Whereas we go to professional baseball or any other sport, a lot of times people are standing in the outfield, they're living in extension, their shoulder blades are already down and back because that's where gravity puts them. So we have a lot of people that don't spend enough time getting their arms up to a position that would require a considerable amount of scapular upward rotation. And that's what sometimes a push-up can give us. It takes us away from being here all the time to actually the point where as we protract, we're actually up to about 90 degrees of shoulder flexion. And in other push-up variations, such as feet elevated push-ups, yoga push-ups, we actually start to get a little bit more scapular upward rotation. So taking somebody who just benches all the time who has shoulder pain, maybe it's that we actually need to create some scapular upward rotation, actually get that upper trap engaged as we try to basically rotate that scapula up to keep that ball and socket congruency. So one of the exercises we'll use a lot with folks who are so down and back that they have those big downslope shoulders and don't have an upper rotation is a basic yoga push-up like I mentioned. So it's just a regular push-up, but as we come up, we actually encourage people to shoot those hips up, make a double chin to keep that cervical spine neutral, and actually shrug up as they protract all the way. So try to sink it right up and create some actual scapular movement. So we're going through not just protraction and retraction, but upward rotation and then eccentric control of downward rotation. Okay? So that's a closed chain exercise that maybe complements what we would do with a barbell or a dumbbell bench press nicely. But a lot of people don't realize that there are other open chain exercises that can maybe train that upward rotation in a way that we might want. So we'll in many cases use, like a rip train or overhead lift. We're actually carrying up overhead and then shrugging in the top position to create a little bit more upward rotation as we work our anterior core. But on the pressing side of things, obviously an overhead press, when done with direct scapular control, can be a great exercise to actually train that pattern. The problem is most people aren't in a position to really overhead press in an efficient way. They tend to pull into lumbar extension, or they just don't upwardly rotate enough to really get that shoulder overhead pain-free. So we like to use the Landmine Press, which can be done half kneeling or standing. We usually start folks in a half kneeling position. And what's great about going to this position is you have a free hand to basically put your hand right on your rib cage, engage that anterior core, and make sure that you're not slipping into lumbar extension. So in this position, we're cueing glute activation on the left side, brace that core, dig that heel in right into the floor, and keep kind of that vertical shin. And all we want folks to do is not just press up, but as they press up, I actually want them to engage that upper trap a little bit in the top position. So they are kind of pulling down and stabilizing with their scapular retractors in the bottom position, but as they come up tall, I do want them to actually shrug enough to get that scapula moving. Because I think we've made a generation of athletes worse by saying down and back too much. Some people need to be up and slightly forward in order to be healthy. So we get that arm above 90 degrees of shoulder flexion, we get a little bit more serratus anterior recruitment. We know that serratus works with upper trap, works with lower trap to create that scapular upward rotation. So try it half kneeling, try it standing, complement it with some push-ups, and integrate it in conjunction with your dumbbell or barbell bench pressing program, and you have a well-rounded shoulder program that should keep you pressing healthy for a long time to come.